What's going on, everyone? Living to learn. Thank you for thanks for watching. It's always a pleasure to create this content. Record these videos for those of you who have been able to gain something from certain things that I've shared. So again, I'm always appreciative of that. And once again, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. Please share these videos. You can like them, only if you like them though. And comment as well. And then for those of you who perhaps would like to take your support, a step further, I have an option in the description of my video where you can donate financially. And again, that just helps me out, with regard to, making sure I have the time and am able to continue to keep up with this, right? Because, like everyone else, my life gets pretty busy at times and it can get a little harder to narrow it down. So that always helps. But anyway, your support and just watching and listening to these videos is, it's more than enough. So don't feel like you have to donate. But again, if that's something you want to do, I'm always open to it and I welcome it. It helps a lot. So we've been talking about these last few videos were on a theme about the change cycle, and I hope that you guys were able to gain some takeaways from those videos. And again, I aim to present things that are relevant, not only to just, to people in general, but that I'm connected to as well, right? Some of these things are relevant in my life, right? These things are relevant as far as how they've affected me and how I've handled them and how I'm dealing with certain things. So I try to apply my experience in regard to, the things that I'm talking about. So this video, we're gonna be talking about image. Now, this is a part one. I don't know if I'll do just a part two. I might do a part three as well, because I think image, when you think of image, that just encompasses so many things, right? You can go so many different ways with it. And in particular, I want to focus on our self-image, right? How do we see ourselves? And, that starts with looking in the mirror, but it goes beyond that, right? Because, I think if you're honest with yourself, like when I think about, when's the last time I looked at myself in the mirror and what did I think? Right? Like, what do you tell yourself? What's our response when we see ourselves? And it's kind of crazy because this world that we live in, the society that we live in, image is, it's something that's it's dictated by, I guess, just like popular culture, how you should look, how you should carry yourself, what you should be like. And there's a lot of shoulds and, there's a lot of things that are kind of held over our heads, right? And so those things influence us. We're being bombarded with these things daily, whether it be social media, whether it just be, being out and about in society. And so I wanted to talk about image, like how do I see myself? How do you see yourself? Well, what is it? What is your image like? What type of image would you like to portray? And what kind of image do you think that you do portray? Like, how do you think others see you? And I think it's important to really have an honest conversation with ourselves to make sure that we have a healthy image of ourselves. Let me tell you, at the end of the day, there's a lot. People are always going to have, an opinion about us. They're always going to have a judgment to make about us, an assumption. And so to kind of guard ourselves, not in a, like, I'm just going to build a wall, but not like that, but really just to kind of protect ourselves from unnecessary harm, right? Because the more we give into someone else's idea of image and we allow that to be projected on ourselves, the more harmful it becomes, because now you're not going according to what you think. You're not going according to a value that you've placed on yourself or a certain way of looking at yourself, but you're going based off of what others are saying you are or you aren't. And that can be dangerous, because people are always going to have, people can have opinions for days about us, but our capacity is limited. So you have to keep that in mind. And so 3 things that I wanted to focus on today that you should keep in mind when it comes to your image. The first thing is your uniqueness, right? In case you didn't know this, you're unique, right? You're one of a kind. Like, there is nobody else like you. There's no one else like me. Now, there's people that we share similarities with, right? I mean, that's how we have friends. That's how we build community. We have people that we have things in common with, and people that laugh at the same jokes, right? We got the same sense of humor, and we do the same. We have the same interests, stuff like that. I mean, yeah, that goes, that kind of goes without saying. But as far as who you are individually, as a person, you are unique. Now, what should that tell you about yourself? How should that influence your image, the image that you have of yourself? Well, it should remind you that there's a certain value on you in your individuality and your uniqueness that can't be manipulated, right? It can't be downgraded, because think of anything that's rare, right? Rare collectibles, right? Some people like to collect, baseball cards, sports cards, right? And you have some cards that are just so rare, they're so valuable, that they're one of a kind, right? Like, these can't be duplicated. Like, there isn't another one like this. And so we put a high price tag on it, and because it's unique, right? It stands out. It's different. And that's you and I. Whether we understand that or not, to what level we understand that, that's the truth. And so don't allow anything or anyone to persuade you into thinking that you're not unique, because you are, right? There's only one you, there's only one me. And it comes down to certain things, right? Like, how do you interpret things? How do you say things? How do you do what you do, right? There's a uniqueness to us. The second thing we have to remember, the second thing we have to keep in mind is, and this ties into uniqueness, is value, is our worth. Just the fact that you are a living, breathing human being, you have a certain worth. And I think I mentioned this in one of my other videos. You have a certain worth, a certain value that just cannot be taken away. It can never be stripped from you. Now, circumstances, individuals, society, people at large may try to do that. They may attempt to take that from you. We may even think that it has been taken. We may be under the false assumption that we are devalued. And you know what that comes from? Most of the time, that comes from this list, right? This standard of things that we want to identify as, hey, if I can do this, or if I can have this, or if I can sound or look like this, then I will have that value that comes with it. The worth that comes with that will be mine. And that can cause us to have, that has a negative impact on the image we have of ourselves, because when you're looking at it that way, you're looking at it as that value, that worth is something to be attained, when in reality, the fact that you exist, you already have it. The fact that you're alive and breathing and living, you already have that. So pay close attention to that. Image how we see ourselves. When you look in the mirror, do you see worth? Do you see value? Or do you see lack? I don't have this. I'm not that. I wish I was, maybe you've never had those conversations. I've had them. I have them. I have to fight almost daily to remind myself that I have a worth and a value that can never be taken. Right? That I have to build that into my image, the way I see myself. And really, it's an exercise that all of us need to undertake, because when you begin to place your value and your worth on things outside of yourself, then those things have control. Right? It's almost like the stock market, right? Like, these big institutions are influencing the price of the stock that drives it up or drives it down, right? It's like the numbers, the influence, right? The majority is they're determining what's worth what. And maybe economically, market wise, that might make sense, but as a person, as an individual, that's harmful. We can't allow something or someone else to determine our worth and our value. And it can be subtle. We all know, growing up in school, right? As kids in school, like, everybody decided, and as a collective almost, like, what was cool and what wasn't. Oh, if you had Nikes, all right, you're cool. Oh man, you got some off-brand, like, where'd you get those from? Ross, like, just some, you weren't cool. Right? It was tied into something else. You weren't there's like, you're not as valuable, like, you're not as worthy as the person that has this or doesn't have that. That's why we have such a materialistic influence in our lives. We always want something to make us feel like we're worth this or that. It's kind of embedded in us. It's kind of programmed in us, based on how we grew up. And I'm not, again, just to be clear, having nice things is great. Being able to afford expensive things and luxuries is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're looking for those things to add value or give you value that you don't already perceive in yourself, there's something wrong with that. So I'm here to remind you that not only are you unique, but you are valuable and you have a worth. I have a worth that can never be taken, just based on the fact that I'm a human being. And the third thing we need to keep in mind when it comes to image is expectations. Now, here's what I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about expectations from others, because like I said earlier, people can have opinions for days about you, about your life, and it can be endless. Whereas we don't have endless capacity to always look to please or appease those things, right? To always look to say, okay, well, I need to be this or I need to be that. Oh, okay, that's a good idea. Oh, yeah, you're right. I should do that. Here and there, it's fine. I mean, there's people in my life who have invested in me, meaning, building me up, being there for me when I needed someone, helping me out during my tough times. Those people who have invested in me, when they want to share something or when they have a suggestion, I listen, definitely, right? You can give attention to certain things, to certain people that have been there for you. I'm not saying don't listen to anybody. That's not what I mean. What I'm saying is expectations from others or from outside, they can be endless, right? They can be nonstop. Like, you're just like, man, like, you put all kinds of we put all kinds of pressure on ourselves, and it comes down to how we see ourselves, right? We want to be seen as someone who is XYZ, right? I want an image that portrays this or whatever it might be, right? And so a lot of times we may allow those expectations, those outside expectations, to kind of dictate how we maneuver and how we do things, right? Maybe we allow it to dictate, how we, kind of water ourselves down, or certain things that we that come natural to us. We're just kind of reluctant to be that because it doesn't line up with that expectation. No, so the expectations that I'm talking about are the expectations that you have for yourself. And what do I mean? Well, I look at it like this. Whatever you expect from yourself, right? Whatever I expect from me says a lot about me. It says a lot about how I see myself. Right? Like if I don't see myself as much, like if my self-image is lacking, if I can't stand looking in the mirror because I'm just not good with me, then my expectations might be, my expectations are going to be influenced by that. Right? And the problem with having low expectations for ourselves is that we never give ourselves the opportunity to pursue something greater than what we've already become accustomed to. And this goes right along the lines of this channel, what this YouTube channel is about. In my own personal life, in my own pursuit, and what I'm trying to help others gain from that. Is those expectations, they really reflect on how I see myself. Right? What do I expect from me? So image is important. It's an important thing to really understand and to really navigate and to really dissect and to really be honest with ourselves. Like, how do I see me? Right? What is my image? How do I look to others, but how do I look to myself? Like, how do I see myself in the mirror? What is my opinion of me? Where is the worth in my image? Where is the uniqueness in my image? And what expectations do I have for myself? And that should allow us to really start to deal with the things that we need to deal with, to get to that place where it's like, I have such a healthy image of myself that my expectations are on that same level, right? Like, well, I expect more from me, not in a sense where, hey, I'm going to beat myself up if I come up short, but no, I know what I have, right? I understand that there's uniqueness, right? There's a value, there's a greatness in all of us. I really believe that. There's an excellence in all of us. I really believe that. I was talking with somebody today and mentioned a conversation I had been a part of a few years back, and this person said, "Hey, if I was to ask you what you're good at, you'd probably start writing down a list of things, right? Like, well, I'm pretty good at this or that." But then he said, "But if I was to ask you what you're best at, you'd have a hard time narrowing that down, because what you're best at comes so naturally to you that you don't even understand or realize that other people, it doesn't come as naturally to them either. Like, it's not just everyone, it's you." And see, I believe that. I believe all of us have that certain thing. It may not be something that gets all the attention or something that would grab people's attention, but it's just that subtle, great thing, that subtle thing that you are best at. And only you have that. And so, remember these things when we think of image, when we think of how we look at ourselves, when we determine how we feel about ourselves, right? Whatever is dictating our image and our image of ourselves, we've got to make sure that that's something that's not coming from a negative place. It's not stemmed in negative. It's not rooted in negativity or in a lack, right? Like, oh, I don't have this, or I'm not that. But it's got to be something that supports you. Our uniqueness supports our worth and our value, and supports our ability and encourages us to expect more from ourselves. And so, hope this was helpful. Really appreciate you all watching, and until next time.